we explore foam swords for HEMA training. This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed. This is our part 2 on cosplay swords that could be used for historical European martial arts training. And first up, we have here a really classical one. We have the sword from Conan. If you have not seen this movie, go and watch it. It's a masterpiece. Yes, it's with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he cannot talk great English, and also in German, he doesn't talk a lot. But the music is really good in this movie, and the music combined with the images you see there is simply beautiful. This is a masterpiece. The sword from the movie is not necessarily a masterpiece, but it's an interesting one. We have a relatively massive pommel, which is not to its best, but we have a very distinct ricasso region. And a lot of people have complained about that because it makes the sword a bit tip heavy, not top heavy, so heavy towards the tip. But the ricasso offers the possibility to grab it there, for example, for half sword or also for Mordschlag and similar stuff. So this is a special sword that can do something that not all swords can do. So this is interesting to have some variation in these aspects that you can train. And therefore I like that quite a lot. For me, the main handle is a bit short. I cannot place two hands there, but you can see if your hands are a bit smaller, you can fit them well there. The blade is relatively heavy. There's not a lot of tapering towards the tip, and therefore this is definitely one of the slower swords. But due to this ricasso region, it's also one of the powerful ones. And if you use the ricasso region right, you can find some interesting techniques that almost remind on the Irish stick techniques. If you have not seen the mechanics of the Irish stick and why this is interesting to be used with a sword, check out our video. I'll link it in the description box. I will also link the part 1 of the HEMA swords if you have not seen these ones. The cosplay market has produced a lot of interesting weapons over the last few years, including also some more general ones that cannot be easily attributed to a distinct movie, to a distinct anime, or to a distinct manga, but they are definitely interesting and useful if you're interested in sword fighting. And one of the examples we have here, this is a Viking sword. And on a first glance, you can already see it looks very Viking-y. Problem is the handle is a bit long. Usually the handle should nicely fit snug around my hand, then I have more control. There are some Roman relatives of this sword, so of the Sparta, where the handle was a bit longer, but this seems to be influenced by movies such as the 13th Warrior, where Viking swords have been equipped with longer handles so that the actors could place a second hand on the handle. Historically, one-handed use, and that's what we're also trying to do here. Due to the rather heavy blade, and also this cosplay version has a rather heavy blade, it's a slower sword, but if it swings, it has quite some heft to it. And you can make use of that. Especially here against the fast Dark Souls sword, you can feel the difference in weight and in speed. And you can make use of the speed, of the weight also, but also of the relative length. Although this is a one-handed sword, it's relatively long. And so it adds up to the available variability on the market, and therefore I also really like that one. The crossguard here is relatively short, so no danger of ripping it off. We forgot to talk about the Conan sword concerning the crossguard, and the crossguard there is super massive, and therefore it's unlikely to rip off. People can complain about that this is historically not correct. But for a foam sword, this is probably a good idea to have a crossguard that massive, then it's more likely to survive for a longer time. I know, in principle I should have tested the Viking sword in combination with, for example, a shield or an axe or a sax or something. But here we wanted to concentrate on the swords, not on the fighting style. And I really can say this is a
nice little Viking sword. It's not very expensive. You can get it on Amazon or you can get it on different Chinese websites or also on eBay, and it's rather cheap. So no danger in wasting the money. This is a good one. Also a bit hard for LARP, bit softer than some of the other cosplay swords, but it's probably, in LARP, the rule is if it's okay, if someone hits you with full power with it, then you can use it. If you want to risk that, your decision. I would not go for it. I would not take that to LARP, but for training, it's really, really nice. So up next is something that I really like, because it will perfectly fit to my cosplay. It's a sword in black and red, and it's from a franchise that I've never heard of before, so here's the reference to it. It has some downsides. It doesn't have a proper pommel, which is something that you immediately recognize, but you can get used to it. It works. It's fine like that. What is more annoying is that the handle becomes bottle shape or a bit thicker towards the crossguard. This is awkward at first. Luckily, as I'm using thumb hold most of the time, this works well for me. This fits to my hand, but I think for people with smaller hands, this can be an issue, and therefore I mention it specifically. The crossguard looks super bulky, and there are definitely people that will find that ugly. I think this is genius because, as we had discussed it with the sword and online swords last time, the crossguards have a certain tendency with these foam weapons to rip off. And with this massive type of crossguard that we have on this sword, this is unlikely to happen. Therefore, I think this is at the moment my favorite European style sword from this anime type selection that we have looked at here. Although I also really like the Dark Souls sword because it has this speed to it and the more stabby blade, and so it brings in a nice variation. Overall, all these swords together make it possible to find good training tools for a really, really reasonable price. You always have to think that these things are cheaper than the polypropylene weapons. Usually you can get 2 of these swords for the price of 1 polypropylene weapon. And we've pointed out in different videos, I'll link some stuff in the description box, that unlike the polypropylene weapons, with these weapons you can basically train everywhere. If you go to a public park, nobody will complain if you play around with these things. If you go there with steel blades or even polypropylene blades, you will probably draw some attention and maybe also quite some negative comments. With these foam swords available, and also with the variety of these foam swords available, we can avoid that, and that will be good for the sword community. Hope we could inspire you. See you around next time.